Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen. I'm an author and a book reviewer, and this is a new reading vlog. Sunday is my upload day, so even though it is Christmas Day, I thought I would still upload. And if you're watching it the day that it is uploaded, Merry Christmas to you if you celebrate. I have definitely been in the camp of people who wished more content was uploaded around the holidays, though I completely understand why it isn't, because people are busy. But not everyone is busy, and I have definitely wished for more content to wrap myself up in, cozy reading content. So I hope that I can be that for you if that's what you need today. And if you're coming to this video later because you have been busy, I hope you had a good time. All right, so this is just a quick clip because it's very orange lighting. It's not even nighttime. I think it's about 4:30, but it is dark outside. And I wanted to start a new reading vlog. My thoughts had been, I'm not going to do a themed reading vlog. I'm just going to read whatever I want to read and chat to you about it. But my brain still isn't working properly at the moment. And if I don't have a plan, my brain doesn't know what to do with itself. I've just been looking at my shelves thinking, what do I want to read? It needs structure. So I'm giving it structure, loose structure. It's scheduled to snow, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. So I thought, why not read books that have snow in them or are winter based, seasonal reads, not necessarily Christmas ones. In fact, I don't know if any of these have Christmas in them, but I quickly went through my shelves and pulled off 5 books that look kind of snowy. And one of them doesn't look snowy, but I have been told is snowy. I'm probably not going to get to all of these, but I'll show you what I am choosing from. At the moment, I'm actually reading Moominvalley in November, or I can't remember exactly, or just Moomins in November, don't remember. I'll put the cover here, very beautiful. I know that it's not November anymore, it is December, but I was annoyed at myself for not reading this book in November, because if I didn't read it now, as close to November as possible, I would just leave it until next November. And I don't want to do that because there are other books in the series that I want to read, and I nearly sang I don't want to do that a la Bo Burnham and saved you from that, so you are welcome. So I'm reading that one. I could also go to Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. This is her debut book. I have read Death in Her Hands and My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I haven't read Lapvona or her short stories yet. This was the one that got everyone talking about her because it was shortlisted for the Man Booker in 2016. I'm not going to talk about blurbs because I'll be reading hopefully most of these. Another debut I haven't read is Cold Earth by Sarah Moss. This is, I was going to say, the only book of hers that I haven't read. I also haven't read the sequel to Bodies of Light, which has got children in the title and is about a lighthouse. I can't remember. Anyway, I haven't read her debut either, and I should rectify that. Also, snow. Snow? Then this is the one that doesn't look snowy, but I have been told is wintry. This is All About Sarah by Pauline Delabroy-Allard. This is a queer love story, I think. Then we have got The Snow Collectors by Tina May Hall, which has been sitting on my shelf for several winters. It doesn't really jump out at you as a cover, and I keep forgetting that it exists, and that's very rude of me, so I should read it. And if I want to read another children's book after the Moomins, I'm not sure I'll want to, because that may have, you know, tickled that itch, scratched that itch. But if I do want to read another middle grade, I could read The Chime Seekers by Ross Montgomery, which is a changeling story set in a snowy forest. So those are the books that I'm probably going to be pulling from for this vlog, but I may decide that I want to read other wintry books on my shelves because I'm sure that there are more of them. I am going to be chatting to you about these books as I read them. I'll take you on some perhaps snowy walks. We can do some baking as well, and generally just have a cozy time. So thank you for joining me, and I will insert some footage here of something, and then I will come back to you when I'm talking to you about books that I have been reading. It started snowing. Let's go outside. How beautiful was that snow last night? I'm just looking out at it now. And poor Mr. M, our fence fell down 3 months ago, about 3 months ago. It was in the summer. We had a huge storm and our fence fell down. It had clearly been falling down for years before we moved in here. And the earliest that we could book someone to come and put in a new fence was today. So Mr. M spent most of the weekend clearing away the old fence and digging out the old posts and the cement that the posts were in. And he worked so hard and it looks so great. And then this is what our garden looked like this morning when I opened the back door. You might be able to tell that there are no fences coming today to put in our new fence, and you can't even tell all of his hard work. It's even hard to see the line. That makes our garden look really big, but it's our garden and next door's garden just with no fence in the middle of it. So yeah, no fence today. Maybe they will come later this week. I hope so. It'd be nice to get it done at some point, but obviously you can't control the snow. I was supposed to be going to meet my agent Charlie today for a walk. We haven't seen each other in 3 years, over 3 years now. But because it snowed, London just ceases to function as soon as it snows. None of the tubes are working. So I'm not going to be doing that, but that's okay. We've waited 3 years. We can wait a few more weeks before we meet for a walk. That is fine. And to be honest, I have enough work to be getting on with anyway. I have 3 deadlines before the end of this year. A book deadline, an anthology piece deadline, and a pitch deadline. In fact, the anthology piece and the pitch are for before Christmas. And then I'll still be working on the book deadline up until the new year. But it'd be great to get those sent off. 1, because it's the deadline before Christmas, but then 2, it just leaves me with just the book to work on between Christmas and New Year. So I'm going to crack on with work, but I have decided going to pick up Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh first. So when I have stuff to say about that, I will come and chat to you about it. And I think, because I'm sure that outside will be treacherous starting tomorrow, because snow is fun and lovely, ice is not fun and lovely, and I think it's going to ice over tonight. So we're going to go for a little walk at lunchtime in the local woods while everything is still looking like Narnia, because I think we're probably going to be stuck indoors for most of the rest of this week. So I will take you on that woodland walk with us, and I'll talk to you about Eileen in a little bit, and an update on the fence, because I know that you're riveted. Thought that I would film this clip in front of the Christmas tree, because it kind of feels wasteful to not film basically all clips in front of the Christmas tree, given that it's not up for very long, is it? So hi, this is the Christmas tree, and also this is my new jumper, which arrived in the post this week. Sunny's book truck. It's so comfy. I bought this from CJ's online store, CJ Reads. She's also a fellow booktuber. She runs Sunny's Book Truck, which is a mobile bookshop. And if you have read my book, The Bookshop Book, or to be honest, Franklin's Flying Bookshop, that very realistic book about, you know, a bookshop on the back of a dragon, you know that I absolutely adore traveling bookshops of all kinds. And I'm so happy that CJ set up a mobile bookstore, because I just think it's great. And I'm very happy to support in jumper form. It's one of those ones that has, you know, it's super soft on the inside. And support from afar, which I'm always happy to do. So I will link her in the description box down below if you haven't already checked her out before and her business. She's great. I'm just very happy that she exists. Pleases me. And I've also noticed, looking in the viewfinder, my hair is so long at the moment. I was looking back on the video that I did where I was reading my favourite authors' book recommendations. And if you remember, that was the one that I filmed in September, where I took a 3-week break because I really badly injured my shoulder. Laughing back on those 3 weeks lying on my sofa, what a fun time. And you can so see it in that video. I know this is not interesting to you, but with someone with alopecia, hair is of interest to me. At the beginning of that video, my hair is quite short. And then after I come back after those 3 weeks, it's super long. And that's because it grew really, really fast when I was taking all of the estrogen before our embryo transfer in October. It didn't fix my alopecia or anything, because my alopecia is not fixable, it is permanent, it's scarring alopecia. But when you're taking loads of estrogen, and I was taking loads, or you're pregnant, which is what those drugs are making your body feel like you are, then your hair grows really quickly. So none of the hair that I've lost grew back, none of my bald patches changed or anything like that, but every other hair on my head that's still there was like, we must grow really quickly. So it was very strange to get thick hair again. It's now starting to fall out more. To have thicker hair than I'm used to having these past few years, even though, you know, as I said, all the bald patches were still there. It was a very weird experience on top of, you know, all the other weirdness that comes with doing IVF. But yeah, I'm not used to having quite so much hair these days. And before anyone asks, no, you can't take estrogen in general to make your hair thicken as some kind of balancing act for alopecia. That's just a good way to make you very sick. So anyway, yes, weird. It is later in the week now, and we have our fence. I'm really happy to have that fence in. I don't know why. It was just one of those things that we needed to tick off our list for ages, and I'm just glad that it's done. And I was very impressed that the guys came, because I really wasn't sure if they were going to, because even though the snow, yes, turned into ice and then mostly disappeared, it was -3. They put that fence up when it was -3. I gave them lots and lots of cupcakes, like not throwing them out the window, but you know, I passed them lots of cupcakes because, yeah, it was cold, but it looks really, really good. It looks like this. And then next year we can think about what we want to do to the garden. That's more Mr. M's area than mine. He's much more into it than I am. I was gonna say more focused on doing stuff to the house. I will be whenever my brain feels in gear to do that. I'm still feeling just discombobulated with life, and I feel that that's okay. But at some point next year, we'll start doing things that need to be doing to the house. Boring stuff like fixing the windows. We need to replace some lining before doing some plastering. Need to sort out the chimneys at some point. And then I get to play with paint, you know, but the paint is really far down the line. It's hard to get excited about repairing windows, isn't it? But I must at some point. Anyway, we're here to talk about books, and I have finished reading Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. I think I mentioned in the first clip that this is her debut, and I have since read My Year of Rest and Relaxation and Death in Her Hands, but I haven't read Lapvona, or is it Home for the End of the World or something, her short story collection. Does it say at the beginning of this book? No, that's not helpful. Oh, Homesick for Another World, there we go. I haven't read that one yet either. It's really interesting, I find, going back to either a debut or a really early book of an author whose work you came to know later on in their career. I mean, not that much later, a few years for Ottessa and me, but it's fun to go back to Eileen and to notice themes that are repeated later in her work, and to see how her writing has evolved as well, because I do think that her, well, I haven't read her most recent book, but Death in Her Hands, which came out last year, is, in my opinion, much better than Eileen. I think that the pacing is better, and I think that she gets the balance more, but what's the word? There's more equilibrium when it comes to gross topics, because this book, Eileen, is about a woman called Eileen who lives with her dad. Her dad's an alcoholic, and her sister has gone and left, can't put up with this situation anymore. Her mum died, and her mum didn't used to be very nice to her, and she works at a prison for boys. Eileen doesn't really wash much. She likes to talk about bodily functions. She kind of likes to try and gross people out, and it feels like that's what she's trying to do to the reader. How many of your buttons can I press before you decide that you don't like me and you don't want to hang out with me and you want to put this book down? She seems to do that with lots of people that she meets as well. It's kind of hard to imagine sometimes her being this disgusting in real life and other people not noticing as much. I feel like the narrator, that she like over eggs it because she wants to be more carefree in a grotesque way than she actually is. Perhaps maybe these are wishes for herself. She wishes that she could go to work and interact in certain depraved ways and doesn't end up doing it. Anyway, I think in Death in Her Hands, the narrator is very similar. And I think this is maybe not a concern with Moshfegh's books, but you know what to expect when going in them if you've read one of them before. And I think, as I said, she has evolved since this book, and her writing, in my opinion, is better. So I didn't end up loving this one as much, but I appreciated examining the roots of where she is coming from, and characters that have maybe emerged out of other characters too. Eileen at work meets a woman called Rebecca, who she kind of becomes infatuated with. She's actually stalking somebody else in her life, but when she meets Rebecca, it's a bit like Notes on a Scandal. She really becomes obsessed with her, wants to be her friend, wishes that they could kind of take the world by storm and destroy things together. And she thinks that maybe Rebecca is the first person that she has met that will really get her, because she deep down longs to be understood. Don't we all? This book is clearly inspired by Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which is not one of my favourite books. But it is fun to play around with the themes in that work. It's loosely based on it in the sense that Eileen becomes completely infatuated with this almost mystical character of Rebecca, as the unnamed narrator in Rebecca is when she finds out about her new husband's previous wife, Rebecca. You know, she wants to be like her. She wants to become this new version of her, and that is how Eileen behaves as well. I think that the pacing in this book was a little bit off. It's very slow until the final splurge of the book, which I loved. And when I got to that part of the book and raced through to the end, I had vague memories of people reading this book in 2016 when it was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize and talking about it and saying that they found it dragged, but that they loved the ending. So I think my feelings are the same as that. I really enjoyed the ending. I don't think it redeemed the entire book, but it definitely bumped it up a star or so if I did star ratings. So yeah, I am glad to have read this. I felt it was more an insight into Moshfegh and her career in general, as opposed to reading a book that I absolutely adored. But I think that that has merit as well, and I enjoyed myself. So those are my thoughts on Eileen, and I'll come back to you when I have picked up another book. Hey folks, you are balanced very precariously on top of my chair from my desk, and I'm sitting on the floor. I'm not sure why I'm sitting on the floor because it's not particularly comfortable, but I just thought I'd grab my camera for a second. I actually don't have a book update apart from to tell you what book I'm picking up next, but I was going to see if there's been drama. That sounds very dramatic. There has not been drama, but there is a puzzle. So I decided that I would bake my postman some things for Christmas, and then I went out for a walk, and I knew that he was coming today because he was collecting a parcel to post. So I put the parcel that he was collecting outside our front door, and then also put the Tupperware with the baked goods inside and his Christmas card outside next to it. and then went out for a walk. And then I got an email saying we couldn't collect your parcel today because it wasn't there. But then when I got back to the house, the baked goods were all gone and the parcel was gone. So either someone stole the things that I baked for our postman, which is mean, and I hope that is not what happened, and the parcel with a book in that he was collecting. So either someone nicked everything and when the postman came round there was nothing for him to collect, and that's why I got that email, or he got distracted by the baked goods and Christmas card and did pick those up and the parcel that he was taking to post, and because he was distracted forgot to, you know, tick on his tablet saying that he'd collected it, and so I got an automated email saying that they didn't collect my parcel. I'm really hoping that it's the latter, mainly just because it would make me sad if someone had stolen some, you know, baked things. That's not very Christmassy, guys. It's not very Christmassy. Anyway, I'll report back on that. Isn't this whole video just filled with intriguing scenarios? No, it's not. So next I'm going to pick up All About Sarah by Pauline Delabroy-Allard, and this is translated from the French by Adriana Hunter. So I will be picking up this one and I will let you know about the baked goods thief, possible thief. Doesn't it sound like a Famous Five book? Yeah. Oh, and I meant to say earlier this week I made a large-ish batch of mincemeat to go in mince pies. If you're not in the UK and you maybe think that mince as in meat, because why wouldn't you think that, because it's called mincemeat, as in animal substances are in mince pies. They are not. Mincemeat is fruit and sugar, basically. So dried fruit, sugar, and a bit of sherry that you put in, but then all the alcohol evaporates. Anyway, it sounds not that great when you describe it, but I like them. Anyway, I made a huge, largish vat of mincemeat so that I can make mince pies. So I think tonight I will make some more mince pies. It's very handy having the filling already made, and I much prefer making it myself as opposed to buying jars of mincemeat. One, because I like baking, but two, I find those to be really, really sweet. And I would leave you a recipe of the mincemeat that I make, but I kind of just make it up as I go along, which is not helpful to anybody, so I'm very sorry about that. Yeah, that's not helpful. Okay, right, goodbye. I'm gonna go make mince pies this evening, so I will insert footage of that here. Okay, we're back in front of the Christmas tree. It is the 23rd of December. Yesterday, it was The Traitors final. Now, I know how annoying it is when someone says, oh my God, you have to watch this thing. But please allow me just to say, oh my God, you have to watch it. If you haven't watched it yet, I have not been as obsessed with a TV show in, honestly, I think, years. Mercedes and I, if you don't follow Mercedes, I'll link her channel down below, we're messaging each other during the final few episodes because it was so tense. Mr. M absolutely loved it too. It is a reality TV show where at the beginning 22 contestants are put in a Scottish castle and they are told they're all faithfuls, but that 3 of them, I think they tell them it's 3, or they say 2 or 3 of you are traitors. So traitors are pretending to be faithfuls but are not. During the day, all of the group do tasks together to build up a prize fund. Then there's a round table in the evening where they vote off who they think are secretly traitors. And then after that, after everyone's gone to bed, the traitors, if they're still there, if they haven't been eliminated, meet up secretly and work out who they're going to murder that night. And by murder, I just mean eliminate from the game. So it's like Wink Murder in reality TV form. At the end, whoever is left, if they're all faithfuls, they get to share the prize fund. But if one traitor is still there pretending to be a faithful, they get all of the money. The final was just, I have not been so tense. Oh my God, it was amazing. It was so good, and I need a new season now, even though it just finished yesterday. So good. Anyway, so that's that, and I wanted to recommend that to you. It's on BBC iPlayer. And baked goods update, because I know that you will be excited to hear that the postman had collected the baked goods and the parcel and had just not ticked the box on his tablet, which is why I'd got an email saying that they couldn't collect my parcel. It had been collected, and he came by and brought back, re-delivered the Tupperware that I'd given the baked goods to him in, all washed and cleaned in a Ziploc bag. And I was just like, you know what? You are my new favourite person. I hadn't left any note inside that said, Merry Christmas, here are some baked goods, make sure you bring the Tupperware back. There was no note about returning the Tupperware, but I'm here for someone who appreciates the importance of Tupperware and keeping it and returning it. And I'm just so thrilled that he delivered it back to me with my post today. That was just lovely. Enjoyed myself. That was great. Anyway, so something I didn't enjoy, we just say, is this, which is all about Sarah, which matches my jumper a bit. This book, I was bored. I was supremely bored. It's told in fragments, and it's about a woman who meets a woman called Sarah and starts this love affair with her. But at the beginning, we're introduced to Sarah possibly having cancer and being sick, and then we jump back in time. The book is split into 2 halves. First half with Sarah, the second half without Sarah. And it just felt like someone's emotional teenage diary, but about, I guess, a woman in her 30s. I would have liked it if I'd read it as a teenager, because I think it's really self-indulgent, and the language allows itself to be really just, I was going to say long, that's not a word for language, just a lot of, I want to say waffle, to be honest, a lot of love waffle. Love waffle. I just didn't care. I didn't believe that any of these people were real. I didn't believe in their love affair. I was just like, this is not doing anything for me. And I was very sad about that. So, well, to be honest, I'm not that sad, but I want to love the books that I'm reading. And I was sad that I didn't love this book. So I'm going to pass this on to somebody else. To be honest, I could probably have told you that from the quote on the back, which says, it's all about Sarah, her mysterious beauty, Sarah the impetuous, Sarah the passionate, Sarah the sulphurous. It's all about the exact moment when the match flares, the exact moment when that piece of wood becomes fire, when the spark lights up the darkness. It makes me want to just throw up a bit, to be honest. I mean, no, not for me. Anyway, so I'm going to move on to a different book, but the snow and the ice is now all completely gone. I am still working. Mr. M is not. He is finished for holiday break. I have delivered my pitch, but I still have my anthology piece to finish before Christmas. So I think I'm going to still be working on it, to be honest, tomorrow on Christmas Eve, which is fine because no one is going to be reading that on Christmas Day. It's just I want to get it, over to people so I can get it out of my brain. But I'm going to take a couple of hours off this afternoon, and we're going to go for a walk along Regent's Canal. and then up through Hampstead Heath, because I think it's just going to be really lovely. And there's something that I want to try at Camden Market, one of the food stalls there, which may be heaving today, I don't know. I never know if places, you know, some places are really, really busy because it's 2 days before Christmas, and some places are just empty because it's 2 days before Christmas. So I'm not sure what Camden Market is going to be like, but we need to walk through that while we're walking along Regent's Canal anyway. But there is a food truck there called Yorkshire Burrito, which you may be able to guess from the name is where they have huge Yorkshire puddings, which they fill with essentially Sunday dinner and loads of gravy, and then they wrap it up like a burrito. So it's quite easy to walk with, I assume. I've never had one, but I've always wanted to try it, and it's cold outside, and that just sounds like the kind of thing that would keep you warm, be filling, and also very tasty. So I'm going to try that if the queue is not horrendous, and I'll report back later. But here is the footage of our walk, and I will see you on the other side. I'll see you tomorrow, I think is what I mean. I'll see you on Christmas Eve. Goodbye. Hello, Merry Christmas Eve. I can report the Yorkshire burrito was very delicious, would recommend, and as you saw, the canal was not busy at all because people were clearly not choosing to walk along that on the 23rd of December. It is now, yeah, Christmas Eve, the day before you're watching this, if you're watching it the day that it's uploaded. I know that many of you won't be because you will be busy on Christmas Day. I wanted to upload on Christmas Day because Sunday is my upload day, and I also know that many of us are still, you know, for whatever reason, we're not going to be around loads of people this year. Many people are, I know that. I would hazard a guess most people are, but solidarity with fellow disabled pals who are still not socialising indoors because we're still not. So very quiet over here, which is, it's odd, isn't it? It's odd. I'm not going to get into it here because I don't really know what there is to say. Yeah. But anyway, anyone else who's having a quiet time, hello. Hi. I have made some pizza dough so that Mr. M and I can have pizza tonight, and I've also made a pineapple upside down cake because what doesn't scream Christmas Eve apart from carbs, you know? I don't know. Anyway, that's what we're having. I think tonight we're going to watch the new Knives Out film. I think that's going to be our plan, but I wanted to check in with you. This is the final clip of the vlog to say that I've nearly finished reading Cold Earth by Sarah Moss. I thought I could rush to finish it for this video, but I don't need to do that. I can just continue reading it in my own time, and I need to do an epic wrap up, which will probably be next Sunday's video, of the books I've read in October, November and December, because I haven't done a wrap up in the last 3 months. So there's going to be a huge epic wrap up, probably with some yearly stats as well. And then the video after that will be my best books of the year. But we need to wrap everything up before we, you know, look at favourite books. So I'm going to finish reading this one, and then I've got a couple of books that I'm still in the middle of, which I plan to try and finish by the 1st. Not that I have to, but just I like having, you know, fresh start into next year. Yeah, and then we can talk about all of the many books before my book trolley breaks, to be honest, because it's holding a lot of books right now. So I've been reading Cold Earth. This is Sarah's debut, and it's actually interesting to talk about this in conjunction with reading Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh, because of course this is Sarah's debut novel too. And it's a cliche, but it is true that authors tend to throw everything at their first novel, and we're told not to do it, but we're excited, okay? Like, we have lots of themes that we like to look at, and we want to cram everything into a book. So in this, we start with a character called Nina, who's gone to Greenland with a group of archaeologists, and they are looking at the remains of this burial site, and they're not sure who the people are, these Greenlandic people who they are like excavating. They think Vikings are involved. They think maybe that these people who died maybe had contact with Inuit communities as well. They're not sure. But she is there with them. She is not an archaeologist. She's actually an English professor, but she's interested in Greenland. So she's gone there, she's with these other people, and actually we get their perspectives throughout the novel too. So we have got archaeology, history, English, cold climes. I think Sarah wrote this when she was living in Iceland. Don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure, having read Names for the Sea, that she lived in Iceland in 2009. So either she wrote this just before going to Iceland or when she lived there. So she was clearly interested in colder climes. And we have themes of patriarchy, feminism, war, politics, and pandemics. And all of these things are explored in her later books, but she'll tend to take one theme and explore it in depth in that book. But because this is her debut, she's like, I'm going to explore all of them. And I kind of love that. It just feels like so many elements of Sarah Moss in this book. So these archaeologists are in Greenland, and they are trying to work out what happened to the people who died in this burial site. They think maybe they may have got a virus and died from a plague. And then they get word that there is a virus / a plague happening in the world now, and it is traveling around the world, but they aren't connected to the internet very much. They only get very sporadic news, and it's making them panicky and feeling very anxious, as it would. And they are also led by a man called Yanni, who doesn't want them using the computer to try and connect with the outside world too much, in case the computer gets a virus and stops working. So there's the virus in the past, the plague, there's the possible virus that could infect their computer, and then there is the virus that is spreading around the world that they are getting limited details on. It is looking at what kind of ideas can pollute or infect certain scenarios. That could be literal illnesses, but also it can be paranoia and fear and anxiety, because that's what they're all feeling. And they feel like there's a ghost-like presence. Is that real? Is it not? And I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying all of these elements that it's exploring. These characters are flawed. Nina is a very frustrating person because she feels as though she's mastered feminism, and she doesn't like that some of the other women on this dig are applying makeup and, you know, shaving their legs, and she thinks that's so beneath her. But then she breaks down crying one day because she misses her boyfriend, and then she feels embarrassed because she feels like she's failed as a modern woman. It's exploring lots of interesting concepts. I don't think it's going to be my favourite book that she's written. Like with the Moshfegh, I think Sarah's writing has got stronger as the years have gone by and she's written more books. I'm not sure how many she's written now, but it must be nearly 10, if not 10. And you know that I adore her. She's one of my favourite writers. So it's great to read her debut and see all of the stuff that she's put into it. But I definitely prefer her more recent work. And I don't think that that is a ridiculous or surprising thing to be saying. So I will finish reading that and I will wrap it up in my wrap up next week. I want to say, if you're still here, thank you for joining me for this video and for all the videos over this past year. This year has been awful. We bought our house and I love our house, and I feel very lucky that we were able to do that. but so many other elements of this year have been awful. Some of the darkest days of my life, which I feel like I have to say that in a bit of a whisper, and that hasn't been a fun time, and it's still not a fun time, and I don't want to cry in this video. I know that when I film videos, I tend to be like really chirpy and stuff, and that's because I like filming. I enjoy this part of my job, but I don't think it is an overstatement to say that having this job and being able to make this and knowing that I can put out content and talk about books with you all has been really helpful to my mental health this year, and it really has at various points kept me going, because this year has been awful, as I've talked about in previous videos, and we're not going to go into that, you know, again here. So thank you for being here and for chatting about books with me. I really appreciate it. And I don't think I really have anything to say. I just want to like give you a big hug through the screen and say thank you. And I hope you're all doing all right. And I will see you for that epic wrap up video next week. And I'm sending lots of love.